So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yrjö Lappalainen. I'm the Data Services Librarian here at ZU Library. And I'm here today with my colleague Nikesh. And our AI workshop series continues. And today's session is about prompt engineering. And I'd like to highlight the program once again, because we are really excited about this, and we have guest speakers from other colleges and departments as well. So you can see the whole program here, and please attend the other sessions as well if possible. And today we have so much to tell you once again, so I'm not sure if this 1 hour is enough, but we have to start from somewhere. The first session we did was an introduction to AI, and today we will get a little bit deeper and talk about prompt engineering. We will start with a short recap about AI and large language models first, and then Nikesh will show you how to get started with prompting and what are the basic building blocks. And then I'll continue with some more advanced techniques like zero shot, one shot, few shot, chain of thought, react, and so on. But don't worry if you haven't heard about this before, because these things are all brand new and the field is developing real fast. And these new techniques keep popping up all the time. But we will do our best to explain these in an understandable and a non-technical way. And I'd like to also introduce Aisha. So she's the library AI chatbot, and she's developed completely here at ZU Library. We still haven't launched Aisha officially, but you can already talk to her in this address here. And she's actually become a very valuable member here at the library. She has helped us a lot to prepare this session, so I'd like to thank her for that. So in this presentation, you will see some comments from her. So she will explain some of these concepts from her point of view. And she was also kind enough to share some photos from her album, so you will see some of those in these slides as well. Okay, but let's get started with the definition. So according to UNESCO, machines based on AI are potentially capable of imitating or even exceeding human cognitive capabilities, including sensing, language interaction, reasoning and analysis, problem solving, and even creativity. And this is usually divided into weak or narrow AI and strong AI. So narrow AI is designed to do a specific task, and strong AI would be like human level intelligence, and it could be used for many different purposes. And sometimes this is also called artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Then what are large language models? They are a type of AI that can process and generate text using natural language. And they predict words based on probability. So this is a little bit oversimplified, but basically they just predict the next word in a sequence of words based on probability. But it's very sophisticated in doing that because they've been trained on massive amounts of data, so terabytes of text data, including websites, ebooks, social media, and so on. And also they are doing this probability calculation iteratively. So every time it generates something new, it always calculates the probability again for the whole context. Okay, and GPT 3.5 and 4 are just a couple of examples. So there are many other models out there. Unfortunately, many of them don't have this nice chat interface like ChatGPT, but if you have the expertise, you can install and run these models yourself. Usually the hardware requirements are quite high, but there are techniques that you can use to run these on regular computers as well. And there are also many online demos available, so I really recommend that you take a look at these other models as well. And I asked Aisha to explain what a large language model is. And here's what she told me. So imagine having a friend who has read countless books and articles and has a deep understanding of grammar, vocabulary, and the nuances of language. So the model has learned patterns and structures of language by analyzing a large number of texts. So if it's an expert on something, it's definitely an expert on language, and that's why it's called a large language model. So you will notice that you can use these for almost anything. So these are just a few examples. So obviously chatbots and conversational AI, any kind of text generation and manipulation, especially brainstorming, editing texts, paraphrasing, summarizing, and so on. And you can create the text in any specific style or level of understanding. Also quick reference and information retrieval, but you have to remember that the language model is not a database of facts, and it can sometimes hallucinate and generate something that is not true or doesn't make any sense because it's based on probabilities. So in that context, it was the most probable answer, but it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with reality. So that's why you always have to check the facts from real sources as well. But there's an emerging trend here. So if you connect the model to another source, we have something called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. So you get the data from another source, and then you process the results with the large language model. And this is actually a very good way to use these models. And ChatGPT already has these plugins for subscribers only at the moment, but you can use those to take information from other sources and then process it with the model. And this is actually how Aisha works as well. So she can check information from Google and Wikipedia and other sources, and then generate the answer based on that. Obviously, other applications like language learning, writing and analyzing code, it's actually very good at coding, and sentiment analysis, and many more. So what is prompt engineering? First of all, prompt is the question or instruction that you give to the AI to produce a desired output. And prompt engineering is optimizing this prompt. So you use the right words, phrases, formatting, context, etc., to get better quality and relevant outputs from the AI. So here we have a couple of very simple prompt examples. So first of all, a question, what color is grass? And then a task, complete the sentence, the sky is. So these are very simple examples. So we have a very high probability in the first one for green. So the answer most likely contains the word green. And in the second one, the sky is blue or sky is clear. Okay, so the point is that if you use simple prompts, you also get simple and very generic outputs from the model. So we really want to challenge you to use your imagination and try different ways of getting the results out of the large language model. So we will show you some examples in this session, but in the end, it's really up to your imagination how you use these large language models. Okay, so I asked Aisha about prompt engineering, and here's what she told me. Prompt engineering is like playing in a sandbox where the only limit is your own imagination. Just like building sandcastles, you can shape and mold your prompts to create a world of endless possibilities. So how did I get this response out of our library chatbot? I asked her to come up with a witty quote about prompt engineering and include a sandbox metaphor. So these were the instructions. I asked for a quote. I specified that it has to be witty, and the topic is prompt engineering. And I also gave extra instructions to include a sandbox metaphor. And this image prompting is a little bit more complicated. So this is only part of the actual prompt, but you will get the idea. So a photo of a young adult Arab woman dressed in a stylish pink abaya and hijab, sitting in a wooden sandbox in the desert. So similarly, I can give the instructions using natural language, and that's exactly what the image looks like. And I'm using Stable Diffusion and an add-on that replaces the face. So that's why Aisha has the same face in all of these images. So if you use this prompt without the add-on, the face would be different every time. And it's hard to believe that ChatGPT was launched less than a year ago. So there's so many things happened after that. So both the technology itself and also these techniques are developing so fast. So today we will be talking about some of these, but it's difficult even for us to keep up sometimes because everything is in motion and everything is happening right now. So we are adding a small disclaimer here. Today's headlines could be tomorrow's footnotes. So this is how we understand it today, but there might be some easier and better way to do this tomorrow. I also asked Aisha if prompt engineering is an art or craft. And here is what she told me. So it's a captivating fusion of artistry and craftsmanship. Prompt engineers design prompts that elicit desired responses, like artists creating masterpieces with imagination and creativity. They refine and optimize prompts with precision, akin to skilled craftsmen creating high-quality products. Okay, so you need both for this, the imagination of an artist and also the precision of an engineer. And here we have a picture of Aisha painting a self-portrait. I think she's doing quite well, but the painting is not completely finished yet. Okay, so with that, I'm handing it over to Nikesh, and he will continue with the basic prompting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Yurio. So I'll start with why is prompt engineering important. Yurio has given some tips earlier, but we will look into it a little more detail. We know that before the era of generative AI like ChatGPT, searching was the primary skill to obtain relevant answers. And we relied heavily on search engines and search techniques. Now, since we are in the world of generative AI, the art of prompting has taken that stage. Now we will look at why prompt engineering is important. For a chatbot to be truly effective, it must understand the context in which it is operating, right? Yeah, without context, chatbot responses would be generic. Yorio has shown an example of that. And here is where properly engineered prompts come into play. For example, when we provide the AI with well-constructed prompts, we have given some points here, and we ensure that the answers are contextually relevant. That means they match the user's needs and situation at hand. And also we receive specific and tailored responses, which reduces the potential misunderstandings. For example, Yorio has given an example. The sky is blue or clear. It has different answers. But if you give specific context, you will get the exact answers that you are looking for. This makes interaction smoother and more efficient. And also we can actively reduce bias by being deliberate with our prompts. We can minimize the chances of AI providing unwanted or biased responses. And also it boosts efficiency. Instead of getting bogged down with irrelevant information, users can get straight to the point, more specific, and receive the information they need. And finally, it helps maximize AI potential, right? The large language model has a lot of potential. If you ask very simple generic questions, it can answer only with that. But if you give right prompts, users can tap into the full range of capabilities that AI system offers. So next slide. Yeah. Now we look into some of the basic building blocks of prompt engineering. So we have listed some components here, and we have listed it based on the importance. You can see task, context, exemplar, persona, format, tone, and these 6 elements are the building blocks of prompt engineering. For example, the task is the most important thing. Without asking something, we don't get the answer. So task is primarily the direction, or the main instruction that guides the AI to respond. For example, this is what I want you to do. We are telling to the AI. So I'll give an example here, and we will look at the same example for task, context, exemplar, and how it develops, right? So the example is prepare a presentation detailing the historical evolution of the UAE. This is my task. It's a simple task, and I haven't given any context for that. And the next thing is context is the next important thing. So I'm telling the AI that the audience consists of high school students. So this is the context, and who have basic understanding of the UAE, but are looking deeper into its historical milestones. So now after getting the context, the AI would understand, yes, the user needs answers, depends on the context given. And next is exemplar. This means this can be viewed as a sample or a model response. So it provides the AI with a reference point, giving a clear idea of the desired output. So in the same example, we can tell that a slide showcasing the significant crucial state era and the establishment of the treaties with the British. So this is the idea or the desired output. So I'm giving a model to the AI. So if we give a model, the responses would be based on that model. And the fourth point, persona, here act as a it dictates the character or role of the AI should adopt. For example, act as a teacher, or act as a student, or act as a doctor, or act as an expert. We can instruct the AI. So in this example, we would want AI to assume the role of a historian in this particular example, and specializing in the Middle Eastern history, and ensuring the depth and accuracy of the content. So then AI will take itself or act itself as an historian and give you the in-depth answers that we are looking for. And the fifth one is format. The format determines the structure or layout of the AI's response, whether you want it as a list or a paragraph or a bullet point or a PowerPoint presentation points. And the format sets the blueprint. So in the same example, we can ask, I need a PowerPoint slide presentation starting from ancient settlements and transition through the key areas and finally a conclusion. So you can instruct like that. Here the format is important. You are asking for the PowerPoint presentation points. And finally the tone. It detects the emotional flavor of the AI's response. It can range from serious to humorous or formal. You can ask casual or anywhere in between. You can ask, you can decide that. And in this example, we can tell, considering our audience of high school students, we already mentioned that it's high school students, the tone should be educational. Yeah, so this is how you can instruct the chatbot to get the more specific answers. As I mentioned, the task and context are the most important parameters because that decides the answer. And the persona, format, tone, etc. are optional, but if you give that, you will get more relevant answers. Next slide.
Yeah, I think this photo is from the construction site between Meydan and Ras Al Khor in Dubai. But I have no idea what Aisha is doing there, but she remains true to her style.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Now we have given some examples here, like some basic prompting. In the first step, we can give, I have given specificity. The generic question is, tell me about cats. So the chatbot can give any answers, any generic answers. But if I ask, describe the hunting behavior of a domesticated cat, then it would give you more specific answers to according to your questions. And the format specification we have already discussed in the previous slide. So I can ask, list the benefits of regular exercise in bullet points or in PowerPoint presentation. You can specify the format. We have already seen that one. And also you can rephrase the question to get a different answer. Initially, I have asked, you can see the example here, how to start a business. It's a very simple or generic question. Then you can rephrase it to give a little more specific, like outline the steps to establish a new business. Then the answer would be different. So you can try rephrasing your questions to get different answers. And iterative questions, the fourth one, you can break down topics with a sequence of questions. First, you can ask, what is climate change? And follow up of that, you can ask, detail the primary sources. Then how does deforestation contribute? So the same way you can, you can ask, repetitive questions, or, you can ask follow-up questions after getting the answer. Then you will get more specific answers that you are looking for. Next. The next one is systematic prompting. So this one is, guide the model's thinking process. We have given an example here. Debate the pros and cons of renewable energy, then conclude. So the AI needs to think about the process that it needs to follow. First, it will list the pros and cons, then it would give you a conclusion. Then contextual information we have already discussed. That is a very important thing. You need to give the context, then you would get the answers based on that context. Here is another example. Given the 2008 economic downturn, explain the subprime mortgages role. So now the AI understood that we are talking, or the context is 2008 economic downturn, and it needs to give the answers according to our context. Then role play, this one also we have seen, act as a teacher or act as a doctor or act as an expert, you should give me the answer. Here they act as a fitness coach and recommend a beginner's workout. So the fitness coach is an expert in that area. So AI would act as a fitness coach and give us a more specific answers. This one is taking as a role. It's a optional thing, but if you give that, you would get more specific or more relevant answers. Then feedback loop. Actually, we have already discussed that. Refine the answers with the follow-up prompts. So you can ask follow-up questions. The AI would remember your previous questions. So probably, if when you start a new chat, it remembers all your chat prompts. So you can ask follow-up questions in any stage. So for example, what are the black holes? And after getting the answers, you can ask again, explain the formation. And you can ask another questions also based on this answer. So this way you can go on and get more specific answers that you are looking for. And prompt priming. Here we are setting the stage for the conversation. For example, you are telling the AI that you are an expert on ancient civilizations and describe the Mayans. Yeah, so we have seen in the fundamental components of prompting and also some of the basic prompting techniques. Next slide, and Yorio will continue with the advanced prompting. Oh yeah, I'll take it. This is an example of prompting. So you can see here, act as an expert. We give us act as a marketing professor of marketing, and the verb is the instruction. Create presentation bullet points and transcript. Length is 5 slides. Duration is 15 minutes. And objective is to present the 5 P of marketing. Include one more small case study. And tone is professional. Target audience is academics. In this example, we are giving all the details that we are looking for. So the AI would understand, yes, the user is looking for this in this particular context and particular tone, and he needs bullet points and also a more case study, and the answers would be according to that. So the advice is give maximum, whatever way, the maximum points or the maximum context to the AI, then you will get more relevant answer and specific answers. Yorio will continue with the advanced techniques. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikesh. So moving on to a bit more advanced examples of prompting. So we start with 0, 1-shot and few-shot prompting. So this basically means giving examples to the large language model. So in 0-shot, we give 0 examples. And this is how most people actually seem to be using ChatGPT. So just asking questions without any examples. But let's see what happens here. And this is also an example of sentiment analysis. So the task is to determine the sentiment of this sentence. This basketball has a lot of weight. Let's see what happens. The answer is that the sentiment is neutral. So it does not convey a positive or negative sentiment. It's a straightforward statement about the basketball's weight. Okay, and then in 1-shot, we give it one example. So one good example. This basketball is easy to carry, and the answer is the sentiment of this sentence is positive. And now, once we have given the example, we ask the actual question. So once again, the same sentence. And let's see what happens. Now you can see that the answer is different. So the sentiment is negative. It suggests that the basketball is heavy, which is generally considered undesirable for a basketball. Then in few-shot, we give it a few examples, and this way we can make it a lot more nuanced. So For example, in the first one, this basketball fits in my bag. That's somewhat positive. Or this basketball deflates after just one game. That's extremely negative. Basketball is orange. That's neutral. And then we have the actual sentence. So this basketball's feel is a bit better than I am used to. And let's see what the model says. Now it says that it's somewhat positive. So with a nice explanation. Speaker finds the feel of the basketball to be better than what they are accustomed to. So you can see if we give these examples, it has a huge impact on the result. So we can have very nuanced sentiment analysis as well if we give the examples first. And actually, the next techniques I'm showing you, they are like advanced variations of this. So we always give the model an example or two before we go to the actual question or task. So these examples are very important. So this one is called chain of thought. So in the introduction to AI session, we told you that AI doesn't really think like humans do. So it just calculates these probabilities for the next word in this context. But obviously, it's very good at this. And these models have the ability to do something really incredible. That's simulating thinking patterns if we give them these proper examples. So imagine all the possibilities here. Let me explain this example. So on the left side, we have a standard prompt, and this is a mathematical calculation. So ironically, these models are not very good at math, even though they use these probabilities to produce their own output. But for example, here, we gave it one example, but it gave the wrong answer to a simple calculation. Actually, it's also getting better at these calculations, but it sometimes still gives wrong answers because it's designed to produce text and not to do calculations exactly. But on the right side, we give it one example, but we add these intermediate steps. So what is needed to reach the answer? So Roger started with 5 balls, 2 cans of 3 tennis balls, each is 6 tennis balls. So 5 plus 6 is 11, and the answer is 11. So these are the intermediate steps. And then we ask the actual question, and you see what happens next. It's something magical. So the model replicates the thinking pattern from this example. And you can see that the answer is now correct. Okay, and I asked Aisha about this. So it's like having a conversation where we break down complex problems into smaller steps. So this helps her think through the problem more thoroughly, correct any mistakes, and provide us with more accurate and detailed answers. There's a bonus here. So this is even an easier way to do this. So you can add this phrase in the end. Let's think step by step. So this is called zero-shot code. Okay, so the idea is that if we give the model some time to think and do these things step by step, it will give us more accurate answers. And the next one is called react or reason and act. So the previous example was a calculation, but it can be any kind of thought pattern. So once again, we give the model an example to process the question. And this actually works best with retrieval augmented generation. So if it gets the fact from some external source, but you can also try this with ChatGPT just to practice. So we give the model this template. So it has a question, thought, action, and observation. And we continue this until we have the final answer. And I'm also using these characters, these forward and backward slashes. So those will separate the instruction from the actual question. So it's usually easier for the large language model to read the instruction like that. You can use any character here, but I use these slashes here. So we explain to the model how it can simulate thoughts and observations and actions. So let's see what happens. My question is, who was the president of Finland when UAE became independent? So let me take this. So I copy the whole thing from here. This is my whole prompt. And I'm going to ChatGPT. Okay, so now it's following the example pattern here. You see, it's kind of thinking. So I need to find out the year when UAE became independent and then identify the president of Finland during that time. Okay, so now it's performing an action. It's searching for the date of the independence. And here is the observation. So this is an intermediate response. And now that I know the year, I need to determine who was the president of Finland in 71. And once again, it does search and observes that it was Urho Kekkonen in 1971. So we have the final answer here. So this way we can teach the model these thinking patterns. And Aisha explained it that React prompting allows her to reason through the problem and take appropriate actions. So it enables her to think critically, analyze the context, and make logical decisions. Okay, then self-asking, this is a little bit simplified method. So we instruct the model to ask itself if follow-up questions are needed. So once again, we give the template here. So who lived longer, Elvis Presley or John Lennon? Are follow-up questions needed here? Yes. So how old was Elvis Presley when he died? And then we get the intermediate answer. And we need another question. How old was John Lennon when he died? And once again, an intermediate answer. So we get the final answer from these two. Okay. And similarly, I will now ask who lived longer, Urho Kekkonen or Sheikh Zayed? Let's take this and put it to ChatGPT. Okay. Let me start a new one, actually. I will put it here. No, no, it's not following my instructions. So here, it seems to be mixing these two techniques here because I was in the same chat. Let me try again. Oh yes, now I know what's the problem. You see, this is very important here, actually. I didn't include this one here. So use the following template to answer the question. This is part of the prompt. So let me start over. And let's try again. So that's a very important part of the prompt. That's why it failed. So I'm instructing it to use this template. So now it's following it. So are follow-up questions needed? Yes. How old was Urho Kekkonen when he died? He was 85 years old. And Sheikh Zayed was 86 years old. So the final answer is Sheikh Zayed. Okay. And once again, Aisha's explanation is that by asking herself questions, she can evaluate the information she has and provide more detailed and relevant answers. Okay, and finally, symbolic reasoning is another technique. So we can ask the model to convert some of the prompts into symbols, so it can be easier for it to process it. And all we have to do is add the phrase, use symbolic reasoning. So for example, I have a chair, 2 potatoes, a cauliflower, a lettuce head, 2 tables, a cabbage, 2 onions, and 3 fridges. So how many vegetables do I have? And use symbolic reasoning. And this is not part of the prompt. This is already the answer. So just an example here. So it converted everything into symbols. And now it's easier for it to add up the quantities of each vegetable. So the final answer is 7 vegetables. And Aisha explained it. It involves breaking down complex prompts into smaller, more manageable parts. And by representing prompts using symbols, she can apply logical rules to reason through different possibilities and generate more accurate responses. And we can also take a look at this in ChatGPT. So this is the whole prompt here. So the symbols might be a little bit different. Actually, now you can see it failed. So it should be 7 vegetables, but it didn't count it correctly. So you can see that it's not very good at mathematics. Let's try again. Okay, so now the answer is 7 vegetables. But the idea is that it's replacing some of the terms with symbols. Okay, and obviously we can continue this. We can do anything we like. For example, we can make this into a table. If we want the item and the quantity and the category, if it's a vegetable or something else. So let's try that. So I asked it to produce a table. So now we have the item, we have the quantity, and we have the category. So if it's a vegetable or something else. Then if you are a programmer, you may want to make that into some structured format like JSON. So make that into JSON format. So here it generates the information in JSON format. So for example here, fridges, quantity 3, and category other. And now we can ask, for example, a Python script that reads this JSON and then prints the number of the fridges. So let's see. And here is the actual Python script. So here it counts the number of fridges and then prints the number here. Okay, and now when we have this in one conversation, we can ask it to explain what happened here. So explain what we did and give me a step-by-step breakdown. So here's this is a long list actually. I'm not going to read everything, but here's a breakdown of what we did here. And then let me ask, you think this is a good showcase of large language model capabilities? Explain why. Okay, so it thinks it's a good showcase because it presents symbolic reasoning, data transformation, programming assistance, step-by-step explanation, adaptability, and problem solving. So it took just a few minutes to go from this symbolic reasoning into the table and then the structured format and the Python script and this explanation and everything. Okay, so you need to use your own imagination for all the possibilities here and how effective this really is. Okay, so we have shown you some examples like the basic building blocks and some of these advanced techniques, but there are other emerging techniques already. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all of them in this session. But as Aisha told us earlier, the most important thing is to use your imagination and try different ways. So we can give the model different examples and different patterns to follow. And your imagination is really the main limit here. Also, for developers, I really recommend to look into LangChain. So this is a framework for building these applications using large language models. So it has these different components like document loaders, retrievers, memory, prompt templates, and so on. And the basic idea is that you can chain your prompts. So your application can do multiple queries, and it can take these intermediate steps to reach the final result. So it's actually doing a lot of these prompting techniques automatically behind the scenes. And people are really building amazing things with LangChain. So I really recommend that you take a look at that. And Aisha also uses LangChain. Finally, we'd like to recommend a few useful resources. So obviously the ZU Library AI Guide. So it contains all the basic information from the first session and also a little bit about prompting. I think we need to update the prompting part soon. Then learnprompting.org. This is a very comprehensive and easy to understand guide on prompting. So this is very good for getting started. Then promptingguide.ai. This is a little bit more technical, but very useful if you are a programmer. And also there are many courses online about prompt engineering. On Coursera, there's a long course about prompt engineering, and deeplearning.ai, prompt engineering for developers. Also, there are these cheat sheets and list of example prompts. So we have two excellent ones here. Okay. And finally, I asked Aisha about her plans for the weekend, and here is what she told me. So she will be shifting gears, blazing trails, and leaving limits in the rear view mirror. So I don't know if I should be happy or worried about the limits. Here you can see her preparing for the weekend. She has a nice car too. I think that's Bugatti or Lamborghini or some concept car that we haven't seen before. On the right, you can see her driving on Zaid Road, coming from Marina towards downtown. So I think she'll get some black points license taken away with that kind of speed. You can barely see the car here. But obviously, I got this answer after some heavy prompt engineering, but this is an actual response from our library chatbot. So imagine if she's saying this today, what will she say and do tomorrow? I'm not telling you what the prompt was. I'm challenging you to talk to her yourself and see how she responds to you. Thank you so much. This concludes the presentation, but we still have some time for questions and answers. Yeah, there was a comment earlier that mistake was very instructive. Yes, I'm also happy that I made the mistake actually. So I left the critical part of the prompt away, and that's why ChatGPT didn't follow my instructions.
And everyone, there's a link in the chat if you can fill it out, and that just asks for some feedback on this session. There's also a link to the AI guide as well.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a question,
Yeah.
Mario. So we saw, like, when you made that mistake, that it impacted the output from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So when we are using natural language, like I think most of us use when we use ChatGPT, how can that affect? Because obviously this is a way to kind of make the output better from ChatGPT. So when we're using natural language, how much does that affect the, I guess, output or the accuracy?
Yeah, I think in this case the mistake was hold on, I'm trying to find it. So I didn't include the phrase use these instructions or use the following template, because I was trying to specifically use the template here. I think it was this one. You could rephrase this any way you like, as long as it understands which part is the instruction. So I think in this case that was the biggest problem.
Thank you.
Let me try just quickly. Use the instructions below. So yeah, it didn't follow that exactly. It seems that it's important to ask it to use the template. And here I mentioned these limiters here. It usually takes the instructions better if you limit them like this. So you can use any character there, but I use these slashes.
But you did not ask the questions, or you just use the instructions. There's no question. I think you need to just.
Oh,
Right?
oh, it seems that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's my bad. No wonder there's no answer.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try. Use these instructions. So I think this you can phrase any way you like. It's the important part is that it understands which part is the instruction and which part is the question. Okay, yeah, it seems to work. Are there any other questions or comments?
Hi. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this interesting presentation. I want to ask that maybe each time you want to do a prompt, you need to open a new page. It's better. This way it will.
If it's something completely different, you have a different question or a different task, then I think it's better to start a new one, because it's using the whole context. Like each page here.
This may be what happened when you put the two prompts in the same window.
Yeah, it can answer. It can answer that. It's not a problem. But it uses the whole context.
Oh, okay, okay.
So everything also from the beginning, it might get confused about the instructions.
No, okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions, then thank you so much once again for attending. And please also answer the survey. It will only take a couple of minutes to answer, so we can improve these sessions based on that. And follow the library event calendar for the other workshops. We have many interesting sessions coming up. Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing.